Most people would have forgotten how they learned their mother tongue. And even though English is the universal language and not the local language of most people, they would have learned it from as early as nursery class, if not class one. As a result, those who are proficient in any language that is required for them to operate in the professional world that they might find themselves in would have no recollection of actually how the learning of that language occurred for them. In my case, I learned my latest language in class 7, which is my own mother tongue. You must recall my untold story of languages earlier on. I did not know how to say water and that I was thirsty, and so I wanted to drink water. So, vocabulary is the first thing that I realized was needed to learn a language. Fast forward 40 years, and there are very few words in Nepali that I do not understand. When I am in counseling sessions, I am baffled at how bankrupt most students are in terms of vocabulary. It doesn't become obvious unless you sit on a one-to-one basis with students. When you are teaching in a class, the ignorance of words that the students are supposed to know can easily be dodged by them because of the urgency of completing the course and just the fact that there are too many students. The pertinent question is how did students in class 11 and 12 reach a situation where they do not know the very words that their textbooks are made from? The writers had a particular competency level of students in their mind as they wrote those textbooks. They could have chosen much harder words to convey the same message, but they did not because students should naturally be able to understand them. However, upon talking to so many students, I often condemn those writers because they could have chosen a bit more simple words or synonyms in those textbooks that would have been much easier for the students to understand. It just seemed to me that those writers wanted to show off their vocabulary. Still, there is no harm done, but the important question that arises in my mind is why doesn't the student admit that he doesn't understand that particular word and just opens a dictionary or at least goes on Google and finds a definition of that word. The two questions that I asked in the earlier paragraph are related. The students reach a stage where their vocabulary is so poor because they are not aware that they should increase the bank balance of words that they know by doing research on them. It is that simple. Now, why did this situation occur? I think it is because the teachers of languages are in a rush to complete their courses. So instead of spending a dozen of classes, if not at least a few of them, sitting with the students and encouraging to look up in the dictionary or even in their mobile phones the meaning of the words that they do not understand, they just moved on with the course. I mean, what's the point of an English teacher teaching a story in which the students don't understand dozens, if not more, of words? When I sit with those students, I realize that the seed of identifying words that they don't understand and doing research on them hasn't been planted. So all I do is ask them to take their mobile phones out, and if they don't have it, I use mine. Then I teach them first to Google that word. Now you'll be amazed that the students do not understand the definitions given by Oxford or Cambridge dictionaries online. That's obvious because their vocabulary is so poor. I will not be giving example of words here because that would be too lengthy. In addition, all my objective is just to give the principles of learning vocabulary here. If they had to use physical dictionaries, I just can't imagine what would happen. Anyways, so because they don't understand the definition given on Google, I go to Google Translate. Then I put that word, which is English. It translates it to Nepali. Unfortunately, they also do not understand that word in their own mother language. How does it get more ridiculous than this? I don't know. I could have explained to them directly, but I just wanted to teach them the joy of doing research on vocabulary. Next, I asked them to open Gemini, which is the free AI. They put that word. The definition is again too complex. Then I teach them to make a prompt on Gemini, like explain that word in simple language with examples. AI is perfect at such tasks. Voila! Now the student understands. He has a new asset in his vocabulary bank. I tell the students that a new word learned will never be fully forgotten. Now they are beginning to be inspired. They never were taught this particular fact that I just enunciated here. I encourage them further by saying that any language can be mastered if you can know the meaning of a limited number of words. Then, just to make it a proof, I tell them to do a Google search on the list or number of most common words in English. It usually comes to 1,000 to 2,000 words. Now that's not much, isn't it? When I was in Paris, we were taught a very useful practice. In those days, if you remember, we used telephone directories. There were tabs with the alphabet letters on the outside of the copy. Then we would add the name in the respective tab with the corresponding letter. The teachers there told us to get one such directory. Then we were supposed to find every day at least 20 new words that we did not know the meaning of from the various books that we were being taught. Then, like we would a telephone number, we were supposed to enter those words in the respective tab with the corresponding first letter. At first, we would just write down all the words that we didn't understand so that we would not have to look at the dictionary every single minute. Then once we would have read that particular text and tried to understand that passage with the limited words that we knew the meaning of, we were now told to find the definition of each of the words and write them down in the respective pages. We were taught that in order to understand the meaning of a word, you had to know the meaning of easier words which would be used to define the more complex word. So if you do not understand the definition because of a new word that you found there, then count it as an unknown word and put it again in the directory. Then go and find the meaning of that word. Finally, once the word's concept was quite clear, we are supposed to look at how it is used in a sentence, which would be given in a dictionary itself. Now that made sense. Finally, we would be told to use that word in a sentence of our own making. If possible, write all that in a directory itself. The idea is to revise that particular directory several times until you are familiar with all the words. I think we always were encouraged to do so, and there was a prize for some students who had the most number of words in the directory. That was a long time ago, so I think I forgot whether it's a true memory or my imagination. This same advice I am tempted to give the students that come to my counseling, but I know that it's a too much of a big ask for them. So I just encourage them to at least learn 10 new words a day. That is 3,000 words plus a year. Isn't that a great deal? So the students get encouraged, and at least in my presence, they commit to that goal. The question is, why had they got to wait 20 years of their lives to be planted a seed of becoming vocabulary rich? Now, if you are a teacher, you now know the technique. Once you have the words, the next step is to learn how to pronounce them. Before, we had to rely on the dictionary and the pronunciation code that would be placed alongside the word in question was to be referred. We were also supposed to learn how to read that code. But nowadays, all you need to do is just to go to Google and make the mobile phone or computer pronounce that word so that you can repeat it yourself. Things have gotten so easy, and I just don't understand why the students are not being taught these simple processes. So you might know how to pronounce a word, but it might be spelled incorrectly. There are so many softwares of which MS Word is the most commonly used. Just tell the student to open a Word document or any other notes app and type that word that they are confused about. They'll be prompted with either red line or some other indicators. The correct spelling would be given. That's it. It's so simple. If the student is so lazy to go to words, he can take a picture of the word that he wrote on his paper using AI, and it will give the correct spelling for that word. So these are the various things you can do to help your students improve their vocabulary and become vocabulary rich, which is a foundation for having great language capacity and overcoming becoming an imposter.